If you simply must check out what's happening with the Yankees or the Bulls, you'll find dozens of bustling pubs around town filled with friendly, fun-loving folks just like you.
So come on, join me and my friends in Rochester. We'll save you a good seat.
Born on May 17, 1995, Chester Arthur Roscoe would grow up the oldest of 4 siblings in the city of Rochester, New York, a former industrial city located in the northwest of New York State, and a short 2-hour drive from Toronto, Canada. The city would be championed for its rapid growth throughout the 19th to late 20th century, initially being home to several flour mills, along with its rapid industrial growth through companies such as Eastman Kodak, Xerox, and Western Union being founded and headquartered in the city, which would provide jobs for a large amount of the population at the time. It would also play a key role in politics in the 19th century for slavery abolitionist leader Frederick Douglass to host rallies in the city and publish his newspaper, the North Star, as well as his colleague Susan B. Anthony, who actively participated in the abolition movement, along with the women's suffrage movement, actively pushing for allowing women the legal right to vote in the USA. By the 1950s, Rochester would begin to experience white flight, a phenomenon in America in which middle-class white populations would begin migrating to newly built suburban neighborhoods, seeking better educational and financial benefits, while non-white applicants for houses in these neighborhoods would be actively denied by banks and realtors selling these properties, leaving them behind in urban neighborhoods and creating a deeper racial divide, impacting cities across America such as Detroit, Baltimore, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Buffalo, New York City, and in this case, Rochester, which would end up experiencing a 3-day race riot in July 1964 due to the city's African-American population growing frustrated with their poor living standards in housing owned by Rochester City Council. The city would begin to deindustrialize and lead to rapid financial decline and rising unemployment over time, leading to a growing drug epidemic and rising rate in crime. All of this would provide the backdrop to Chester's early life growing up on Stout Street in East Rochester, on top of being unfortunately introduced to the concept of death at the age of 4 years old, when his father would die in a shootout on Stout Street, and then witness the death of his younger brother years later. The odds were already stacked against Roscoe's family at this point. With his mum's new partner in prison by the time he was 11, Chester would turn to burglary and robbery to earn money for his mum, which she'd never accept. Reflecting on this in a 2021 interview with PassionVice.com, Roscoe stated, "I used to go out and burglarize houses. I used to rob people. This was before I started going drug crazy. I used to do mad little shit as a kid. I'd come back and like, yo ma, here, and it'd be X amount of $100. And she would be like, I don't want that. And it would fuck me up a little bit. Like, you don't know what the fuck I had to go through for this."
On the back block, young niggas riding with them sticks on it. Every nigga take him down if he got them zips on it.
By his teenage years, Chester would end up being kicked out of his mum's house, leading to him to turn to the streets and continue to commit robberies with his late cousin BK, buying weed and going to house parties frequently while ending up having to sleep outside in cars, starting most days with $10 to $15 and then ending it with a couple hundred to do it all again. Throughout this period, he'd grow up listening to a large amount of southern rap, with influences such as Gucci Mane, OJ the Juice Man, and Max B. Believing that the energy that their music gave aligned more with his lifestyle compared to traditional New York rappers such as Jay-Z, The Lox, and Jadakiss. But this turbulent lifestyle would lead him going in and out of prison, being stabbed several times, and shot by the time he was 19 on October 26, 2014, having to learn to walk again soon after leaving hospital, while also having court looming over him once again, choosing not to go, which would lead to a warrant out for his arrest, and eventually a 21-month prison sentence as a consequence. It all seemed to come crashing down, and Chester desperately needed to break this cycle of violence, but his answer would come in due course, on a rocky road to success. Chester would be released from prison at some point in 2015, and hatch a plan to work on music to earn money. Already knowing he could rap since the age of 9, he would put those skills to the test in 2016, releasing his debut mixtape, Takers, under the alias Lil Fleetchie. The rest of this time period would be covered by various freestyles and music videos, such as his October 2016 freestyle for Gunplay City TV,
ZB got a drop in a lot of pots, I done sold a lot of rocks out a lot of spots,
and his music video for Backhand Forts in February 2017.
Give out the money, I need every penny, nigga I keep dead.
Unfortunately, a large amount of Roscoe's old material under Lil Fleetchie has been removed, unlisted, or lost to time. But thankfully, I came across an archive channel called Johnny Spang, which has managed to archive a large amount of videos and music from both RX Papi and RXK Nephew, which is where I've gotten a large amount of my footage from for this video. Johnny, if you're watching this video, shout out to you, man. Thank you for your help. Chester would end up doing another stint in prison for yet another robbery charge later on, and be released on probation in March 2018, releasing his second mixtape, Well-Known Robber, later that same month. This would also be when documentation of Roscoe's work as Lil Fleetchie would become more consistent, and still available to stream years later, releasing 18 singles on SoundCloud in 2018. Overall, the era of Lil Fleetchie would be Chester's testing period, finding his beat styles and flows he worked best with, covering a wide variety of subgenres such as trap, boom bap, and plug and B. But 2019 would mark the start of the man we all know today, the beginnings of one RX Papi. At the start of 2019, Chester Roscoe would choose to switch his name from Lil Fleetchie to RX Papi, based on a new, loosely connected collective formed by Papi and collaborator RXK Nephew, formerly known as Briscoe Slice, which also includes the other members such as RX Brainstorm, rapper and engineer, RXKL Money, and RX2 Doe. RX being the Latin word for recipe, now often used as a symbol on medical prescriptions such as pills and syrups. RX Papi would choose to start the year off under this new alias with the mixtapes Hood, Hose and Stoves, Papi Montana, and Voices in My Head. Unfortunately, all three are no longer available to stream anymore, but Johnny Spang comes in clutch yet again and has the tracks archived on the channel. Cheers, Johnny. By the end of the year, Papi would release 3 more mixtapes, including Broken Pots, Vigilante Papi, and Slit Havel. Slit Havel in particular being the first sign of the distinct RX Papi flows that we're all familiar with today, but still containing the signature mainstay of purely no hooks or choruses throughout any tracks, which has helped RX Papi stand out from other rappers still to this day, being that many describe him talking or telling stories on a beat, rather than rapping or singing, which feels more personal to the overall work. 2020 would be followed up with 9 more projects across the year, with 4 mixtapes, 5 albums, and countless music videos, in an effort to get his name out to the world, and Papi's name would begin to travel across the globe and land in the interests of a producer over 1,000 miles away in Stockholm, Sweden, and he would reach out to Papi with an offer to work together.
I used to wake up in my room in the morning, put on my dirty shoes in the morning, her mama cried last night, think the lights finna go up.
The work of RX Papi had soon caught the attention of Swedish producer Young Good, most well known for being one of the 3 pillar producers to Young Lean and Drain Gang's iconic sound alongside Young Sherman and White Armor, on top of producing for the likes of Travis Scott, Quavo, and Halsey. Good had been completely infatuated with the work of RX Papi and reached out to him online asking to collaborate, sending Papi beats to rap on, which would be finalized for their aptly named collaborative album, Foreign Exchange. A roller coaster of emotions throughout, ranging from deep-seated trauma in tracks such as 12 Stout Street.
I used to wake up in my room in the morning, put on my dirty shoes in the morning.
Never Leave My Brothers.
Smoking blunts back to back, cool and trying to relax. I might fuck around in black.
And Still in the Hood.
They say I paint the picture so vivid. Nigga, it's not a picture I'm trying to paint. I'm trying to tell you how the fuck I'm living.
These 3 tracks in particular being RX Papi's darkest songs on the album, with 12 Stout Street sounding like Papi is brought to tears, recounting his tumultuous relationship with his mum growing up, and facing things that no child should ever have to experience, screaming and howling about what he's gone through to get to this position in just 1 minute and 58 seconds, before ending the song with the ironic twist that even with his successes, 12 Stout Street continues to haunt him.
A nightmare sleeping in my house. A nigga caught me lacking and pulled me out. Big ass pistol to my mouth, and it happened in front of 12 Stout Street.
This same sentiment is continued through Never Leave My Brothers and Still in the Hood, where we see Papi trying to cope with these traumas instead in a more collected tone across both tracks, instead emphasizing how drugs, violence, and crime weren't the answers to his problems, but they were the unfortunate reality he had to live with in his circumstances. The tone of the rest of the album would take a big shift from this, starting off with the tales of grandiosity in Teflon Don, a mixture of homage and relation to the late New York crime boss John Gotti, aka the Teflon Don, who ruled over New York City as the head of the Gambino crime family from 1985 until he was sentenced to life in prison for 5 murder charges in 1992, among 7 other separate charges under the RICO Act. Now living on after his passing in 2002, in references and song titles from countless rappers, RX Papi being one of them.
The crime boss, John Gotti, has been sentenced to life in prison with no parole. Gotti was said to be the most powerful crime figure in America. He was certainly the most visible and the most flamboyant, and he used to have a reputation for being untouchable.
Absurdity and dark humor in Albino Steve. Papi says he's walking in boastfully like various pop culture characters, celebrities, and actors, ranging from the mysterious Albino Steve, WWE's Vince McMahon, NBA star Vince Carter, The Sopranos' Tony Soprano, and more, comparing addicts fighting over crack cocaine to WWE's Royal Rumble, and his ops to the rapper Ice JJ Fish.
Something about the girl that just makes my head wanna twirl.
Swiftly changing the pace to a subtle homage to Papi's late cousin BK in Split Decision, recounting how he used to share clothes with him, the illegal activities he'd do with him, and now instead does with RXK Nephew, both as a sign that some things never change, and also perhaps as a show of strength on the album, that yes, whilst he's been an emotional thug in 3 of the tracks, he could still rob you if you mess with him. And finally, dedicating the last 2 tracks to the women in his life, first with an R&B style production from Good for Raquel, a dedication to a rocky relationship with a mysterious woman who Papi seemed to have had an on and off love for, constantly arguing, blocking each other on contacts, to then eventually making amends to do it all again. But no matter what, he'll still have some semblance of love for her. The final track to the album, Liar, being dedicated to Chester's mum, his lover, but also his addiction to codeine cough syrup and Percocet, experiencing seizures in bed due to abusing them to cope with his traumas, but also struggling with how his usage affects the people around him, including his mother discouraging him from using these substances, along with his lover calling him on the phone about it as well, leading him to block her, then unblock it later on, and have her call almost immediately. The line, "I fucked around, unblocked that bitch call, soon as I did, that's when that bitch called," potentially doubling up as an analogy for trying to quit using those substances, but having the addiction to them consume him soon after. The aptly named song Liar at the end of this 19-minute project, just showing that all of this boasting after his show of vulnerability earlier was purely just a front. At the end of all of this, even with the newfound wealth, accolades, and continued success, he's still the same Chester author Roscoe from 12 Stout Street at heart. Foreign Exchange would be released on November 19th, 2021 via Year One, which would be RX Papi's only label-released project to date, insisting that all of his solo music is released independently to ensure he controls 100% of his masters under his independent label Dogshit Records. Besides this, Foreign Exchange has achieved a combined total of 60 million streams on Spotify, with 12 Stout Street currently sitting at 50 million as of March 2025, mainly attributed to its aggressive success on TikTok during the summer of 2022, showing that people from all over the world could relate and sympathize with the mental turmoil of one man in one way or another, going so far on depressing slideshows that the app made the decision to remove the song and thousands of posts using it off of the platform altogether. But this wouldn't keep it down, as 12 Stout Street has gone down in history of one of the darkest songs of the 2020s, with the apartment block on 12 Stout Street forever remembered as a landmark to countless traumatic events while it still stands. In the aftermath of Foreign Exchange years on, RX Papi has released a total of 7 projects over the course of 4 years, never returning to that sound or style of project since, except for showing brief glimpses of that darker mental state on tracks for other artists, such as Papi's feature on Varg 2 Trademark's Heaven-Bound Blue Magic.
I wanna kidnap one of my eyes, tie him up in the abandoned base, grab a crowbar and beat his face and take pliers and break every finger.
And Joey's June 2024 single, PR Package.
So I know all over the road. Caught syrup in the car, but I don't got cold. Dwayne Johnson came back with the bow. Cross state line, had half the package sold.
Which potentially tells us that there could never be another project like RX Papi and Good's Foreign Exchange ever again. Possibly for the fact that the places it took the artist to were just too dark to ever relive again.